but not her people here. Is it too loud out there? Is this too loud? Okay. My hair, okay. My dreads are looking right.
Yeah, I'm like,
Okay, you're right.
more eye
All right.
level
Greetings, everyone.
Yeah.
Greetings. Oh, excuse me 1 second. Hey, y'all. Excuse me. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Dayton African American Festival's lecture series. Now, this is actually a mini lecture series right now. It is our plan in 2019 to expand this to cover the whole festival, and where our lectures will have times from anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. Right now, we're doing sort of mini lectures, and we're pleased that Brother Steve Muhammad has found a way for us to have this broadcast live so that this helps promote what will happen in 2019. My name is Victor Pate, and myself and Brother Steve Muhammad are both hosting and managing this mini lecture series for the Dayton African American Cultural Festival. And first on our list tonight is a very intelligent sister who I just had the pleasure of meeting. And we even had a little talk about a book just now on the subject that she will be talking about. Her name is Cameron Walker. She's from Racial Justice Now. Cameron Walker from Racial Justice Now. And I will let her do a lot of the elaborating on what she is going to present. And let's hear it for this sister right now.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Thank you, Brother Muhammad, for the invitation to represent the parents of Racial Justice Now and of the Dayton Public Schools community. Today I will be talking about the crisis in education, because it is indeed a crisis. And as I thought about this, we know that there's a national crisis, and Dayton is a part of that. So as opposed to try to throw a lot of things at everyone about what's going on at a national level, hopefully I can connect some of the dots by showing you what's going on here locally in our urban school district, our Dayton Public Schools. I am born and raised, I'm a Daytonian. Born and raised Dayton, Ohio. I am a Dayton Public Schools graduate. I'm actually first generation Northerner, as I call it. So me, my mom, my sister, my cousins, we, for the majority, have been products of the Dayton Public School system. And I actually graduated in 1997. And I remember at that particular time, I had a cousin who was going to Chaminade. Her parents worked at General Motors, both of her parents. My mom worked at the post office, and I had another aunt who worked at the post office. My cousin and myself and my sister, my older cousin, we all Patterson, Meadowdale, Colonel White. We are products of that. Remember attending Ray State and doing our testing, and one of my cousins, the one who went to Chaminade, we're 3 days apart. So we graduated together, took our entrance exams at Ray State together. But that's when I realized how devastating my education was in comparison, not comparison to her, but in comparison to like systemically. Right. Because I graduated top 10% of my class. You couldn't tell me anything. I was ready until I took that exam, and we got there, and pretty much everyone who had come into Wright State that fall, who had graduated with me, people who were in the IB program, people who were in advanced placement classes, people who were in honor classes, top 10%, top 5%. We all tested in developmental reading and mathematics, whereas my cousin who went to Chaminade tested out and could get into her major. And what does that look like now? That looks like me having a degree, a bachelor's in psychology. I graduated from Wright State University. It was challenging because I didn't have study habits. I didn't know how to be accountable as a student because it was a breeze in high school. I got the A's and I got the B's and I did what I was supposed to do. But when I got to college, those critical study skills were not present. So I struggled.
Yes.
But in that struggle, I found myself and I became a student leader and I became really involved in the things that impact specifically us, our community, our people. We were 13% at a predominantly white university, so we had to come, we had to come together. And we had to become each other's family, become each other's resources in that education, that process, that post-secondary, that, that everybody was supposed to go to college. Because at my time, coming out in 97 in Dayton, they were closing down the last of the doors of the factory, of the manufacturing industry. GM was shutting its doors, plus someone like myself, I couldn't connect to that industry, and that was what was known to be thriving in this area. So it was like, go to college so you can expand and you can do something bigger and different. Make a different contribution. So anyway, again, during my time at Wright State, I really just started feeling like the lack thereof, I would call it. Like, wait a minute, I was not as ready as I thought I was. For the most part, first generation college student, so I didn't have that preparation. People helping me understand the financial aid process, people helping me understand how to declare a major, what that major should be. To be perfectly honest, I went in thinking money. I wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't want to be pre-med. I was able to go to a conference for juniors and seniors who wanted to be going to the medical field. And they said, you don't have to do pre-med. So I said, oh, okay. I don't have to do pre-med. I won't. I was with biomedical engineering. Not realizing I wasn't that good at math, but it sounded good, because I didn't have anybody to guide me. And so after struggling with that, I decided, let me change my major to business. I'll become a finance major. And it was in the College of Business that I realized that there was a us versus them. There was, I didn't feel engaged in the process. Everything that they were speaking was pretty much foreign. We even set up our own study tables, and it was still a struggle, for me to connect with my major, connect with my professors. I remember I even had a professor who was a black man, and I was struggling in my math class, and I said, I'm struggling. I was already in a supplemental math class. It was special for us, not because we were behind, but because we were chosen. And so I go to this professor, and I'm saying, I need help. I'm failing. He says, you might want to change your major. That's the reason why I originally changed my major. So again, that foundation just wasn't there, and I was just devastated. I'm like, I don't know what to do now. So again, going into the College of Business, really wasn't engaged, really wasn't interested, because I realized it was the good old boys club. I'm like, they're not talking to me, they're talking to them. So kind of connected with one of my psychology classes and said, you know what, it's time for me to graduate. I'm going into my 5th year. I like this. It resonates with me. I'm ready to graduate. Let me get out of here. So I declared, I changed my major a 3rd time as a psychology major. And also during that particular time, I was on student government. And being in student government, again, that's where it just really became apparent that there was a us versus them. We did not fit in their world. We did not fit in their scope of interest. We were something for them to laugh at. And we didn't deserve to be there. That was really what was happening between us and some of the other students of the organization that were non-Black students. So that was my experience. Graduate, moved to Columbus, start my family, and Columbus was just so bustling. Even when I was unemployed, I didn't feel like I was unemployed because there were always opportunities available. There were, temporary jobs that were just so plentiful. I ended up working at Nationwide before I went into another social service job, because that started out in residential for youth. And then I went to Children's Services. And then eventually I ended up at Help Me Grow. So I was always working with at-risk families, impoverished families, but I was also able to take care of my family. But then some things happened and I moved back to Dayton. And moving back to Dayton, my daughter has been in the Dayton Public School District since she was in first grade. And in kindergarten, in Columbus Public Schools, they ran up to me, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, did you see her test scores? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's 5th grade reading level. I was like, oh, that's impressive. So then we moved to Dayton and she went into the Montessori school. And they struggled with trying to figure out how to integrate her into their system. But eventually, she was one of the students who was in the gifted program, and she got the resources that she needed, and everything was great until we got to middle school. Middle school, we started to see a decline. We started to see disengagement.
Right.
And she went to one of the top schools in the district, and I couldn't understand, you're at this great school, what's happening? But at this time, I became a parent organizer for Racial Justice Now, so I learned how to use my voice.
Yeah.
And I learned how to use the resources and learn about the resources that were available. So as a parent, I made sure that I did everything I could. I got her mental health testing, I got her assessments, I did everything that I could to see why there was this decline in my daughter's education and her engagement in school. But at the same time, over the years, I've also taught in Dayton Public Schools as a substitute teacher. And I just became committed to that process of understanding from a parent's point of view what it means to help our children become educated and seeing the disparities that our children have to face. Seeing the inequities that our children have to face. Hearing non-Black teachers talk about, I'm just here until I can get my tuition and my student loans paid off, my loans forgiven. Soon as I can get my loans forgiven, I'm out. Soon as they open up another position over here, I'm gone. I can't deal with these students. Hearing students talk about non-Black teachers calling them the N-word because they think that that's what's going to help connect them to their destiny. No accountability, lack of resources, lack of mental health resources. Me coming from a social service background, dealing with mental health, dealing with impoverished communities, dealing with families who had challenges and barriers, economic challenges and barriers, socioeconomic challenges and barriers, racial barriers, those type of things. Coming from that background, that's how I saw my kids in the classroom, and that's how I saw my daughter, like trying to put the pieces together. And I saw where we didn't have teachers who were engaged. We didn't have teachers who cared enough to realize that these kids are coming from homes where maybe they didn't eat this morning.
Right.
We have kids who maybe they're triggered by you because you're walking up on a student, and maybe that's what happens before they get hit or get beat at home.
Right.
Or maybe they've watched somebody else get hit or get beat at home.
Right.
And we're not addressing these things. But how we respond to it is, put that kid out of class. Suspend that kid. Miss Walker, do you want us to suspend? Why would I want you to suspend the kid? I can talk to them.
Right.
But for the most part, teachers didn't feel that they had the time or the capacity to deal with those issues. Because I'm here to teach, and I have to get you ready for the test that's coming, the standardized test, one of 5 standardized tests that you have to take this year. I don't have that time, so I'm just gonna put you out.
Right.
And if I put you out and don't make a referral for suspension, then you're probably gonna get kicked out of school because now you're walking around hallways with nowhere to go. Where do our kids go? What is the future for our children?
Good question.
And so this is our education crisis, but it's connected to the greater community. What is going on in our community? Divestment. So in 2017, the Miami Valley Urban League released a report, a publication about Black Dayton, the state of Black Dayton, and its lost opportunities. I do have notes.
Yay, no.
And in that report, it highlights the fact that between 1930 and 1970, Black families were thriving. We had jobs that paid the bills. It didn't only just pay the bills, we were able to buy homes. We were able to buy cars. We were able to start sending our kids to college.
Right.
But then when that manufacturing industry started closing down, starting with McCall's, then you got NCR, then you got different companies that are like different plant companies, manufacturing companies, ending ultimately with GM, it left a hole.
Right.
And from my perspective, moving to going to Wright State, staying out on campus, moving to Columbus, so every time I came back into the community, I started seeing less.
Yes, that's right.
I started seeing stores close, retail stores close, things, movie theaters, everything that made me think that my community was the gem city was closing. I remember in undergrad, I pledged Delta, and we had to meet and have our initial interview at a law office on Salem. Where's that law office now? That was obviously a place, a staple in the community to let us come into her doors
Yes.
Right.
and use her space
Yes.
for us.
Yes.
What about the doctor's offices that were on Salem? What about Kroger's that's moved 100 million times, right? What about Elder Behrman's? Even something as small as Chicken Louis, that was mine. Like when I got off of Route 4 to go to my mom's house, that was the stop that I made. I'm home now. I'm home. I've been in Columbus, I've been doing my thing, but I'm home.
Good point.
Now, where is it? And I couldn't understand. And the first question I asked my mother, because I grew up in the church here in this community, and I said, where's the church? Where is the faith-based community? Where are all these sister churches that we did all of the revivals with and the evangelizing with and the community? Where are they? Where's my community? I couldn't figure it out. But since I've been here for 9 years, you would have never thought that my background, that I graduated top 10 in my class, that I'd gone to Wright State, that I'd gotten a degree, that I worked as a professional. You would have never thought that because poverty impacted me just like it impacts everybody else around here. It is a serious fight or flight, because if you stay, you're surrounded by despair. You're surrounded by blight, abandoned buildings, abandoned lots. And that impacts me as an adult, so how does that impact a child? My daughter talks about, I didn't get to have the type of childhood you have, Mommy, because we used to ride our bikes through the neighborhoods and through the communities. And we were safe, and we took care of each other. And the one thing I knew, I couldn't be out in the community doing something foolish because my mama knew too many people who were going to say something to me and then turn around and say something to her, and I didn't need them to say anything to her.
Right.
So I stayed out of trouble. I stayed out of the way. And I had a healthy childhood. I grew up in a healthy manner here, but what do we see now? Every time I ask about a festival, every time I ask about something that I recall from my childhood, people say, the kids were fighting. The kids were fighting. Why are the kids fighting?
Right.
Have we ever addressed that? So once again, this is our community, so let's take that and put it into the classroom.
Right.
They don't have anything to look forward to. They don't have jobs to look forward to. They don't have people who are invested in them. More than likely, people are walking past them when they see them in the community. They won't even make eye contact, and they're experiencing the same thing in the classroom, where people are not connected to our students. So what does that look like in the classroom?
Right.
That looks like disproportionately high rates of suspensions and expulsions. I have some numbers for you because these numbers I feel like they're really, really, really important. 65 Black students make up 65% of the enrollment, but they are suspended at a much higher rate than their white counterparts. And this is nationally. This is whether you're in an urban school district or whether you're in a high-income school district, Black students are more likely to be suspended and expelled from school based on behavior. Where does that behavior come from? We talked about abuse and neglect and impoverished conditions. Food, lack of food. We live in a food desert. How can you think? How can you produce? How can you function when you're hungry?
Right.
They say our stomachs are our second brain. So if we're not feeding ourselves properly, then how can our brains actually function at full capacity? So that's one of the issues. Then you look at lack of health care. They can't get the proper health care treatment. Their families, their moms can't get the proper health care treatment. We have high infant mortality rate. How does that affect me in the classroom if I'm 7 years old and my mom was pregnant and she didn't come home with my little brother or sister? How am I supposed to process that when you're trying to get me to learn my A's and B's and my different parts of speech? I can't, because that is a loss. That is a loss that impacted my mother. That is a loss that impacted my household. My father's in prison. And I found a number that from, actually it was Ohio Department. Let me see, I'm sorry. Let me go through this because I want to make sure that I get it right. There it is. Our youth, Black youth, make up 49% of the population. Black youth. But 57% of them, I'm sorry, they make up 17% of the population. 49% of youth are agitated delinquents of felonies. 57% of youth are committed to juvenile correctional facilities, and 82% of youth are bound over or transferred to adult court. But we only make up 17%.
Is that 17% of Montgomery County?
It's the Montgomery County.
Montgomery
Yes.
County.
So
we're larger of Dayton.
Yes, it's the Montgomery County. So we're looking at the county. But like you said, we're even larger in Dayton. So when we suspend our kids at these rates, where are they going? What is their next move? What am I doing with my time? One time I went on my lunch break and I go to one of the convenience stores and there's two young men standing behind the building. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Oh, why are you not in school? Well, we're suspended. What are you suspended for? Fighting. I said, well, you know what? This isn't a good place for you to be because you're a target. And when people see you out here like this at this time of day, you become a target. You become a target of police violence. You become a target of what's going on in the streets. So we need to do better. And I don't know these students. I don't know where they went to school, but they're out there and they're looking for someone to say, why are you not in school?
Right.
But what happens when the school puts you out? Last year, Longfellow, which was the alternative school, where we sent our students who were having challenges in the traditional classroom, and as opposed to being suspended or expelled, to keep them connected to their education, they were able to go to Longfellow. Well, that building was awful. I taught them that building. They couldn't be in there.
Right.
So then we had the IOC, the Innovative Learning Center. They're closing that. That is one of the schools that they closed. So now where do they go? And our students, online teaching is not the way for our students. And we want to, we have a district that continues to promote that, but once again, they're still disconnected.
Right.
They need the structure. They need the engagement. They need to look at someone who's going to sit there with them and go through them with the things that they don't understand, as opposed to clicking A, B, C, maybe D. I don't know. And why do I know this? Because we use that system at Longfellow for some of the students. Some of the students were doing Apex learning. But at least in that building, they had teachers there who could come in and say, let me help you with this geometry problem. Let me help you with this reading problem. Let me help you with this chemistry problem. Who's gonna help you at home, especially if my mom didn't graduate from high school?
Right.
Or if my mom is working 2 jobs. So who's gonna help me when I have that question? So we're finding I find in our district, we're finding these creative ways to further disconnect our learning process. So when we look up and we see that we have failing schools, there is a reason for that.
Right.
It is because, and if you actually go on Dayton Public Schools, there is a report from the Ohio Department of Education that talks about the challenges within Dayton Public Schools. And a lot of those challenges look like leadership, lack of professional training and development, disparity in resources, even from building to building. So if you go on the east side, we're gonna find a whole bunch of community resources on the east side.
Right.
From Fresh Way, delivering food, making sure their kids have food in their community, to having mental health services from, I don't wanna call it by its wrong name today, but there is a mental health agency that services those students on the east side. They have a grant
They have a
for it.
grant just for the east side, I went to their training, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. What do we have on the west side? We have things on the west side, but as soon as it has an impact, and we see the numbers, and we see that there's change and there's growth,
Right.
they cut it out.
Yeah.
We gotta get rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
So within our district, just from building to building, there are disparities in our schools and in the resources. We don't have a lot of black teachers. Black teachers, the few that we have are leaving the district because they can't afford to take care of their families. And because of some of the systemic issues that are going on, they just want to be able to teach. They love our children, but their working conditions, it's not inviting for them. So I talked about the problems, what about solutions? And this is what I've been thinking about as I continue to do the work and in my spaces. It's us. The system is the system, but we have to hold those in leadership accountable. We have to show up at the board meetings as community members, as taxpayers, as people, as black people, as people who live on the west side. If you don't live on the west side because you moved out to the suburbs, but you used to live on the west side, you still have to be invested in our children's educational future. We have to show up in their classrooms. We have to show up for the parents who can't who don't have the time because they're working or they don't understand the process. And we have to walk with them.
Right.
We can't keep pointing fingers saying this is, well, the parents are this and this is, we have to be a community. We have to be the village and we have to demand more for our children. And it's an investment. We keep talking about the achievement gap, but there's an investment gap. We're not holding these leaders, our commissioners, our mayors, our board members accountable for the business relationships that are coming into our community to make sure that they are going into our schools and building pipelines so that our students are being properly educated.
Right.
And then going from high school into jobs that are actually livable wages. I now work with young women who most of them are mothers and most of them are under the age of 25 and majority of them do not have a high school diploma or a GED. So I want to thank you all for listening. I'm gonna wrap this up, but the one final thought, again, it's just investment. What can you do as an individual to invest in the educational future of our students in Dayton Public Schools because they need you and they need us.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
All right. Thank you, thank you.
Let's hear it again for Sister Cameron Walker.
All right. Beautiful.
I can tell right now we're gonna get educated
Yes.
on our condition.
Right.
And that's extremely, extremely important. That is extremely important because you don't know what to do if you don't know what's wrong.
That's right.
You know, a lot of times we want to put a Band-Aid on a scratch.
Right.
And don't want to fix the nail sticking out of the door that's scratching us.
Mm.
So we've got to understand the problem. And I got a feeling we're going to get a little bit more explanation on the problem right here. Sister Sharon Hawk, a registered nurse,
Yes.
is going to speak with us on the subject of health equity.
Right, right.
Yes, yes, and I'm very, very interested in hearing this this short lecture. And like I said, these are short lectures. We are going to expand this.
Right.
This is once again the Dayton African American Cultural Festival's sort of pre-lecture series for the 2019 lecture series. And I hope we have some of these people come back where they can really expand
Right.
this and we give them plenty of room and space.
Yes.
Let's hear it for sister.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can it tighten
I
up?
think I agree.
For that
You
tight?
want it down lower?
No, I think that's good, but it just wants to.
Oh, it just wants to keep on.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm gonna probably be moving around and asking you to have a different form. I'm not used to just standing and being like a talking head. I don't wanna be the sage on the stage. My name is Sharon Hawkins. I am a registered nurse. I am here on behalf of Gym City Market. I'm part of their lecture speaker series. And Gym City Market is a food co-op here in Dayton that is about returning power to the community. I'm also the president of the Ohio Nurses Association District 10, which covers 10 counties surrounding Montgomery and including Montgomery. And I'm also honored to be a professor of nursing at Sinclair Community College. This is part of a lecture that I give to my students talking about nutrition. And I wanted to talk to my nursing students in such a way that they could take the information and talk to the patient. Because without communication, there is no health literacy. And the onus of health literacy starts with the educator. It starts with the professional. So often we put the onus of understanding on our patients and on the community, when I'm supposed to be able to bring the information to you in a way that can be used. So this is what I would try to talk to my students about, but it's in a way that I hope everyone in the community can understand. Nutrition is about relationship. Nutrition is about your relationship with food. Actually, the study of nutrition is it's the science of studying your relationship with food. Food is used for multiple things. Food is used for comfort. Food in the African American community is a way to bring people together, to eat together, to share a table, to share ideas. It's used that way in many indigenous cultures. I want you to understand that in our relationship with food, we have to have a right relationship with the community. The foods that we eat have nutrients that provide the essential elements of our body needs to be able to function. And without the proper foods, our bodies do not function properly. Now, I brought notes because I'm used to having something behind me called a PowerPoint that people can see and visualize. And what I want you to know is that the foods that we eat and the nutrients that they provide are the most important environmental factors in our health, our relationship, and what we intake. It influences the growth, as you were talking about, the development, the intellectual abilities of our children and of our communities. It also influences our ability to function and sustain ourselves within an environment. So the lack of adequate food leads to behavioral problems.
Right.
It leads to mental and emotional problems, and it leads to physical problems, such as chronic diseases like diabetes, heart failure, lung problems, are all tied into nutrition. We can either be overexposed, as we are in our community, to processed and fast foods, and underexposed to healthy nutrient foods where we make choices. I was so happy lucky today at the Cultural Festival to find a vegetable garden where I could go and make a donation. And I got a huge zucchini, I got a huge red pepper. They're like fresh, they've been grown, and you're able to choose what you want.
Right.
As a nurse, I know that I can tell my patient that this is the diet you're supposed to follow. Matter of fact, I don't even have to tell you. I have a printout from whether it's Kettering or Premier that tells you this is the information you need to give to your patients. If I give you information, but you can't access what the resources are to get the information, or if you don't understand how to prepare the food after you get it, why would you buy an eggplant if you don't know what it does, or you don't know how to prepare it? Why would you buy different types of zucchini? I had a beautiful woman sitting next to me. She is a teacher. She is well articulated. She went to Wilberforce, and we got to know each other during the festival. She said, "What do you do with your zucchini?" I'm like, yeah. So it doesn't matter. It's not that people are poor or uneducated, they don't know. If we've not been exposed, we don't know what to do.
Right.
One of the goals of Gym City Market is to expose us. They're actually going to have a teaching kitchen where you can come in, and when you shop, there will be different things for different days. We have a vision. And Tiffany, my nurse practitioner friend who's worked with me on this vision, I found out that our plan is being put before the commissioners in Montgomery County to look at. Because we had a plan that looked at social inequity and health inequity and how food is just part of the problem, but there are other problems too. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to have overexposure of African Americans in our communities, in our food deserts, to fresh produce and fresh foods. Essential nutrients are nutrients that have to be taken in, because if you don't take them in, your body can't make them.
Right.
So you can't really get this from a vitamin. You can't get this from something manufactured. And they're considered essential because your body does not have the ability to function healthy without them, and you cannot make it yourself. The essential nutrients are needed for growth, repair, and maintenance of our body. It is because we are created as human beings that we have a need for essential nutrients. Their role is a source of energy and heat. Their role is to support and maintain tissue growth. And the role of essential nutrients are to regulate body processes. So there are 6 of them. And I'd like to introduce you, my audience, to what the 6 are. And then I'd like to introduce you to an opportunity to support Gym City Market, because they're about providing these 6 essential nutrients for the communities. The first one is carbohydrates. That's an energy food. The next one is protein, which is also an energy food. The next one is fat, which is an energy food. And there are healthy fats, not the manufactured fats, but the avocado, the butter, that actually could be good for your heart if you have it in proportion to other things in your life. The vitamins and minerals regulate the body processes. And water, good old water. I'm so happy to see Dayton has tap water out there, iced and free. We don't have to buy bottled water. I was standing in line to buy bottled water, and I'm like, Mama Nazipo said, there is water there, free and running from the tap. I was excited about that, because I like to save money too. Without the water, I'm not going to have the transport for the chemical reactions in my body, and I'm not going to have the transport of nutrients to essential organs. So I need the water as well, and I consider that an essential nutrient. Now I'm going to go back to the first one I mentioned, carbohydrates, energy food. Carbohydrates enhance your memory. Carbohydrates give you bursts of energy. My African king son, Andrew, is here today, and I put him on a swimming team because Black people can't swim. We're going to be on a swimming team. And it was on the swimming team that I learned that we're going to load him with carbohydrates on Thursday so that he has these bursts of energy on Saturday. And so he had endurance and he had energy. Even if he didn't win the race, he had endurance and energy and was part of it. Carbohydrates enhance your memory and your learning. They are recommended by our Creator, by whatever name you call her or him. They are a recommended energy source. You don't want to use your protein for energy, so your body, if you have the right amount of carbohydrates, actually spares your protein. so that you can use your protein for other functions. Your carbohydrates also affect your brain, your nervous tissue, and your lungs use carbohydrates as the primary source for energy and movement. Without carbohydrates, your body will begin to break down the protein and the muscle tissue that you have, and you'll have muscle wasting. But not just any carbohydrate, because we're often given great supply of inadequate foods of carbohydrates. Kraft macaroni and cheese is definitely a carbohydrate. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the zucchini that I was able to get, the green peppers, the red peppers, the yellow peppers. I was talking about the plant foods, the good carbohydrates that give me a source of energy, that bring children to school ready to learn and able to retain the information that you've told them. The next essential nutrient is protein. So we have carbohydrates, then we have protein. Protein has gotten a big fad. Everybody wants to do these high protein diets, and you lose weight, you do all these wonderful things. That too much protein can actually destroy your kidneys. But protein provides a structure for your growth of your cells. It provides structure and ability for them to grow. Your DNA, your very existence and heritage is protein. Proteins, and it's what carries our genetic traits. It regulates your immune system. And without the right amount of proteins and exposed to healthy proteins, you are more susceptible to infection, anything that comes along. So our children go to school without carbohydrates, they're not thinking clearly, emotionally, and behavioral problems. You don't give them enough proteins, and you expose them to other people in an environment that begin to get sick. They don't have the proteins necessary to fight infection. Because what you see happening inside the cells and regulatory that fights infection is all done because of our nutrition. Proteins help you fight infection, but they also help your muscles, your hair, your nails, your teeth, and they basically guide your life force and your genetics. The next essential nutrient is fats. Fats also get a bad name, as people want to have too much protein, they want to have too little fats. And the American Medical Association kind of got it wrong, saying what we're going to do is you're going to reduce your fats. We don't want you to eat fats. Well, yeah, we do. We want you to have avocados. We want you to have coconut oil. We want you to have healthy fats. And we want you to have that because, one, it's going to make you feel full and satisfied. It's also going to give you fuel and insulation. And it helps you process medications that you may have to take. It breaks down metabolites and it works with your liver. So if you don't have adequate amount of healthy fats, you're not going to be able to break down the metabolites in some of our processed foods. It also takes care of temperature regulation, insulation, fuel supply, and organ protection. Our minerals and vitamins I'm going to combine together. Some of our important minerals that we may not know but help regulate body functions are minerals like calcium. Your heart needs a certain amount of it. Magnesium, your heart needs a certain amount of it. Potassium, your heart needs a certain amount of it or you will die. So those are three major minerals that without them, I will end up doing CPR. If a person's magnesium is out of whack, if their potassium is out of whack, if their calcium is out of whack, your heart rate is not going to be even, equal, and strong. It's not going to get blood to the supplied oxygen to the organs that it needs. You also need minerals like iron. Iron helps you breathe, it helps increase your oxygenation, and it likes to attach hemoglobins to it to help you get enough oxygenation to do your bodily function. We also need chloride, and then the vitamins A, D, E, and K help us with different things, anything from fighting immune to our blood clotting. And we get these from fresh fruits and vegetables. You cannot get these from a vitamin and have it do the same effect as eating healthy fresh fruits and vegetables. And then there's protein that goes with vitamin C, and there's protein that goes with the B vitamins, and when they work together, it helps calm your nerves and build your immune system.
Yes.
And water. Clean, fresh water. We in America have not known what a privilege it is for us to have clean, fresh water and access to it. But there are people in countries all over this world where we are building wells to help the women not have to carry water back and forth so that they're able to go to school. But not just water to drink and cook and to do all the other things that you have to do, to have clean, healthy, fresh water. What an honor to turn on the tap and be able to receive what we need. Water transports nutrients and it gets rid of waste. It transports nutrients and gets rid of waste, and it takes care of the chemical reactions. It's like that catalyst to get the chemical reactions, to release the potassium, to release the calcium. It's like a negative ion that has to hit with a positive ion to get that spark of life. Your cell shape and rigidity are dependent on having enough water. So if we know all this about having essential nutrients, why are we not taking care of people on their essential levels? Why do we have malnutrition, which can be either way? Overnutrition of the wrong nutrients, too many carbohydrates, too many wrong kind of carbohydrates, processed foods that are readily available in certain areas. Or we have undernutrition, where people are not able to get the essential elements that they need, but they're getting just one type of food. What happens in Dayton in a food desert is a synergistic combination of having poverty, disempowerment, and not having knowledge. We can start by educating us about what we need and that we have a right to have it. It's kind of like healthcare is not a luxury, it's actually a right. Well, food is not a luxury. Our bodies were created to need certain things, and to not have access to those things, well, I'll let you decide what they are. I'll let you decide. To me, it's terrorism. To me, it's a way to eliminate a people. And I want people to know what you need, because if you don't know what you need, you can't ask for it. You can't demand it as your right as a human being. No matter what the color of your skin or your economic level, you all have the same created needs by your Creator. Every human being needs the 6 essential nutrients. It's not like, oh, black people can do without this, or people in China don't need this. No, if you were created and you are human, you need your essential nutrients. And so it's a basic human right. We talk a lot about food insecurity, and I like to look at the glass as half full. The older I get, the more I see the glass half full. When I was younger, I used to see the glass half empty. But I'd rather fight for half a glass than to think of what I've already lost. So, I'm not going to talk so much about food insecurity. I'm going to talk about food security. Because security is what we have a right to. Food security is when all people, not just some people, but all people, at all times, not just the first of the month, not just when your check comes in, not just right after payday, when all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and healthy foods that you decide are your preferences. Food security is when you don't have to worry if Aldi's will pick up and leave. All right? Food security is when Kroger's doesn't decide what's economically beneficial, that we don't need to be here anymore. This is not the audience we're going after. Food security is knowing that the grocery store is going to be there with healthy foods that meet your food preferences. And that's why I work for Gym City Market. Oh, I don't get paid, but it's become my life's work. It's become my life's work because although I may be well endowed and overweight, I am undernutrition. I don't understand. When you have the knowledge and you don't apply it, I dare myself as a nurse to look at someone who doesn't have the knowledge and is not applying it. So to me, I can work together with my community to become healthier. socially, spiritually, and physically. I want us to have a choice of what our dietary needs are based on knowledge and what our preferences are based on our culture. Food security is what we're looking for and working for in this community as we rebuild a community in Dayton. Because I was not here for Dayton's glory days. And ever since I've been here, I have only seen the decline. But what I have never seen a decline in was the hope of the people. And that is what I am banking on.
That's right.
Is that the people believe that if you give me the knowledge, if you give me the information, if you support me, we can make this happen.
Right.
What's exciting to me about Gem City Market is that there are multiple ways that I can become a member and what membership means to me. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm really, really frugal. And so what I said was, wow, $100 for a membership, I like that, and I like that it's one-to-one. Like, I can't buy 25 shares and have more power than you. I don't care if I buy 25 shares, I still have one vote. So my one vote for $100 could be paid in a $100 check, that's not my style, or $10 a month for 10 months, that's me. So I paid my $10 a month for 10 months, and I have my $100 membership that gives my one vote of what I want to see in a grocery store, of what I believe should be on the shelves. And then once it's there, tell me how to cook it, and tell me why. Have nurses there to educate me, have community health workers to link in things and resources, and use this for school trips, use this to bring children from Dayton Public Schools down to the kitchen and learn how to cook and take that information home and to take home samples and encourage their parents, let's try something different. That's what I'm talking about,
right.
building security, letting us know that we have the ability to take care of our needs, because we know that without the right nutrients, we can be depressed, we can have learning, we can have insomnia problems. And in this country, in this county, and in this city, food insecurity is disproportionate to vulnerable populations. And we are a vulnerable population, no more. When we become together with knowledge and power, through collective ownership, where we have members who own and work there and make the decisions.
Right.
And we have people who vote and people who shop because they get a discount.
Right.
It's wonderful that we have external support, that we have Kettering saying, if you pay $50 employees, we'll pay the other $50 for you to be a Gem City member.
Right.
Kudos to that. But it's us, the community, that makes the decision.
That's right.
And we will walk in
That's
power.
right.
Because we do not have to stay vulnerable, we do not have to live by a definition that someone else gives us. I am vulnerable and dependent on my community, and that's where I will let my dependency lie, and my vulnerability lies in you. I ask you to become members.
Yes.
I ask you to take this message and teach your children about essential nutrients and essential living.
Right.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time.
Yes, sister. I think you almost had church going.
I know, right?
But that's a good thing. I have to make a testament to what you just portrayed and expressed to everyone. I've been always on a journey. I've been a vegetarian since, I'm ancient, since the 1982. I've been a vegetarian. But vegetarianism is a trip. You don't understand it. So I just started understanding that and started moving further, experimenting with vegan. I'm now 100% vegan, but I've gone to now alkaline diets. And so I've eliminated things that I grew up on. I don't even eat garlic anymore. I do certain things that don't fall, that are non-acidic. And I was last year at this time 230 pounds. I'm 185.
Wow.
That started out being the reason why I do it.
But you're.
But from that point on, my brain is clear. I don't wear my
Yes.
glasses as much.
Yeah.
So that what you're saying about owning our own nutrient and education and self-experimenting. I mean, I did a water fast. I never did that before. I did a water fast for 6 days, straight water. You know, so I mean, when you hit on these things and we talk about education and talk about, you know, food equity, this is serious.
Yes,
And it leads to revolution.
Yes.
And
Right.
I am a revolutionary.
Yes.
Right.
Now, Brother Steve, do you want to bring up the
Okay.
next person? I'm gonna let him do some of the work here.
All right, thank you, President. Greetings to you all. Assalamu alaikum to my Muslim family. Shalom to my Hebrew family. A hotep to my Kemetic family. And praise the Lord to my Christian family. My name is Brother Steve Muhammad, and along with my Brother Victor, we are officiating and moderating this conference series because the Bible says that our people die for lack of knowledge. And the thing about our community is we have so many knowledgeable people, but we have to find a way now to connect our knowledgeable people to the masses of our community. And this is why we are working with the African American Cultural Festival and other organizations so that we can begin to host these lecture series. Because, you know, when you look at TED Talks is really as many things in Western culture, it's just a carbon copy, if you will, of our tradition, the griots, you know what I'm saying? We used to tell these stories, now they have put it in a form where they can make money, but we're gonna get it back because we are adding a new twist to it as we do as people.
Yes.
All praises due to Allah. And so we have our sister who is gonna be talking on a very important and in the past almost silent epidemic that our people suffer from, and that is the issue of mental health. And so we want to pay close attention to what our sister has to say. Our sister has a beautiful organization that helps out those who need help in the area of mental illness with the Sunlight Village. Please give our Sister Robbie Brandon, a warm round of applause as we bring her forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm a tad bit.
Oh, let me do that.
Is this it? Right here? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, we'll get it for you.
Perfect. You sure? Yes.
Because I didn't want it in front of you. I
No,
wanted
that's
Yeah,
fine.
that's good.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Robbie Brandon. I am the founder and executive director of Sunlight Village. I'm a registered nurse, been a nurse for 28 years in this community. And I kind of fell into mental health. It wasn't something that I chose as my career. I had all kind of other things I wanted to do. I did oncology, I did telemetry, I did neurology. But one thing that struck me the most is that many of the deficits that we see in healthcare are related to mental health. Every patient that we took care of on the heart unit was struggling with some issue that kept them from completely healing, whether it was anxiety, whether it was depression, whether it was stress or loneliness. Patients who were dealing with neural problems or cancer were struggling with issues of anxiety or loneliness or depression from not healing or not being able to do the things they had done in the past. And then I started working on the mental health units, and I was like, oh my goodness. There's no wraparound services for those that are on mental health units.
Right.
Our oncology patients had dietitians. Our telemetry patients had exercise clinics. We had all kind of things for the very